Good morning and welcome to the 11th episode of the RK Leadership Podcast, where we help empower tomorrow's leaders through sharing of knowledge, experience, and inspiring stories. My name is Rob Cameronpour, and my guest today is Roberto DeMarco, a retired Navy leader. And we will continue on these series of podcasts that we've started. This is our fourth part of the series now. And again, I will let Rob briefly introduce himself, and we'll jump right into our conversations. Good morning, Rob, and thank you again for joining me this morning on the RK Leadership Podcast. If you don't mind, please do your brief introduction, and we'll jump right into the questioning.
Yeah, good morning, Rob. Thanks for having me. This is our fourth one. It's going well. It's fun.
That's right.
I find there's no shortage of things to talk about. A little bit about me. Grew up in Toronto, did electrical engineering at Ryerson University with you. Graduated 2004, joined the Navy, had a wonderful career. Got a chance to travel the world, see a lot of things, have a lot of wonderful experiences, good and bad. And it's great to be here to be able to talk about it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And again, welcome back to the show. So I wanted to start off by a question I had for you specifically, because this question came to me during a live this week. I did a live on Facebook, and someone asked me this question, and they're in a management role, and I wanted to get your take on this question. As predominant leader in the in an industry for 20 years, the question was, I appreciate my people. I've shown appreciation to my people. I'm nice to them, but sometimes that doesn't get reciprocated back. So I don't see the appreciation from my team.
Mm-hmm.
How would you answer that question, and what have you done in your leadership roles to kind of I'm sure we've all been there where we don't feel appreciated, but what do you do in those cases as a leader?
It's that's an interesting spot to be in, okay? Because not everyone's going to like you, not everyone's going to react the way that you hope that they will. Specifically from my time in the Navy as an officer. Okay, so I'll just give you a little bit of background. Is that there's a bit of a two worlds kind of clash. Either you're a non-commissioned officer, so it's all the kind of the junior ranks. It's the people that are turning the wrenches, the people that become the senior non-members or more of the management, that deep experience. And then you have the officers, and the officers, it's the commissioned officers, and they're in charge. And, the two worlds don't always get along. There's a bit of a hate on sometimes. And there was a lot of situations where I would walk in and someone would just not like you because you're an officer,
Right.
And that bugged me a lot when I was junior. Because I used to keep on saying, well, forget that I'm an officer. Just let's have this good contact. And you have to be persistent. You have to keep showing up. Just be the way you are. You have to remove all your expectations for people. And at the end of the day, there's going to be just some people who are just never going to like you because you're an officer, and that's okay. But I would just say is just be consistent. Remove your expectations. Be clear with the content. And I mean, again, if they're not delivering, well, then you have to do your peer review, go that route. But if someone's not liking you, well, you can't make anyone like you. I think it's just going to happen. And it's just, not to say get used to it, but be open to the fact that not everyone's going to follow you.
That's right. And especially for those who are transitioning from the grassroots level to the first management role, it gets lonely, right? Because now you're used to being around everyone and being part of a team in the sense of collaborating in a different manner, and now you're on top of that team, and you have all these people that you're looking out for, and it does get lonely and challenging, and that's why it's so important to have that mental toughness, in my opinion. So
Yeah, and you know, the thing is that you're right. Like the higher you go, the lonelier it gets.
yeah,
I really like. I really wish that that barrier could have been removed. You know, and I found that there was a lot of my peers who maybe embraced and enjoyed that divide. I didn't. You know, I was very much along the lines of just treat me like a human being. When shit hits the fan, it's clear I'm in charge, and let's move forward. But you know, when we're not in an emergency situation, we don't have to have this two-tier system. You know, we can talk to each other like, you know, Rob and Rob, and that's it. As opposed to this, you know, you're not addressing me by my full rank, and you know, with your, you know, I just feel some people need that. That wasn't me. I hated that. I would just rather have the connection, and that's it.
that's right, and that's how you form those remarkable relationships. So having said that, another thing that came up, from a post in the past week is strategy versus character. What's more important? And I think there was a lot of mixed feedback, and a lot of people thought they're equally important. So the quote stated that it was something along the lines that character is more important than strategy, which I personally agree with, because as a leader, you need to have a good character. You can always learn the strategy part, but if you don't have that good character, how can you be leading people, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to get your thoughts on that quote, and like, what's your take on it?
Jeez, there was a. I can't remember if it's Infinite Theory by Simon Sinek that he talks about that, where he's talking about the Navy SEALs, and geez, let me just think about that. How does it go? It was something along the lines of, with regards to strategy, you can teach that.
Yes,
you know, that's a learnable thing, but character, you know, if you got great character, that's wonderful, but you can't teach great character. Do you know what I mean? And I feel that's where people can really get tripped up. So they were saying for the Navy SEALs that if someone, you know, is a bit of a, if they don't have that great character, they're not going to invest trying to teach them all that other stuff, because that's not teachable.
that's right. And character is something that, it's built up throughout your life. Your beliefs and everything else that's kind of instilled in you. Now, can you change your character? I believe you can, but you have to, have that self-awareness and want to change certain beliefs within you.
Yeah.
And can you make your character better? I think so, but it's an inside job. I don't think anybody can change your character. Now, the scenario I put for the folks that thought it was equally as important, or strategy is important because you need to, have an outcome. The scenario I put out there was, let's say you have two candidates that you're hiring.
Mm-hmm.
One is your first candidate is got a bad character, excellent strategy. They can write strategy and they can execute strategy, etc. They're really good in strategy, bad character. Second candidate, excellent character, good character, but they've never done strategy. Who would you hire?
Good character all the way. Good character all the way. Because the bad character guy is going to ruin your organization. He's going to deplete your team, and you're going to be left off with less than you are, as opposed to having more. And really, to kind of jump on this, I'll even go a little further. My take, no matter what job I went into, was always, what am I inheriting? Can I leave it better than when I got it? Doesn't matter what the situation is. So the equipment state. So if I was taking over a ship, it's what's the state of the ship? What's the state of the department? And when I leave, are the people better trained? Are they more motivated? Are they a happier, cohesive group? Is the state of the machinery in better repair than when we first got there? But that should always be the drive. Now, if you have the wrong people on your team, especially those inward focused people, the people who are only out for their own career, the people who will suck anything from anyone around them for their own benefit, well, what you're gonna start to see is burnout at the lowest levels, because all of a sudden those employees now are miserable. They're not happy. They don't buy in. There's gonna be more conflict at work.
That's right.
And your team is going to suffer as the end result of it. So 100%, it's all about character. Because as you said, strategy is something that can be taught. And I would rather invest more resources and time and effort and everything I can throw at trying to get someone who's got good character, because I know the whole team is going to benefit from it.
That's right. And you got to think of it in a way that, again, if you're a new leader in your first role, you're not going to come in knowing how to, develop strategies. And that's something, your manager or your leader is going to teach you along the way. But character is something that you walk in that door with, right? Yeah. So again, those are great points. And that's exactly what the message I was trying to, put forth. Now, this is a great segue for the next thing I wanted to talk about. And I know you and I discussed this offline. I want you to talk to us about, your experience as the company commander. And again, this goes back to your character, what the people above you saw in your character and asked you to do. So I want you to share that story with us, please, with your experience again from the Navy.
So I'll give a little background to, to walk us into it. Company commander, well, what does that mean? Company commander is a person who's in charge of a company. Well, a company is 6 platoons. And what's a platoon? A platoon is, 30 to 60 personnel. Now, this is all happening at the Canadian Forces Leadership and Recruit School. And this is where all of the regular force, people who join, the Army, Air Force, or Navy, where they do their basic training. Okay. And so that, thousands of people will go through the school. And when they're doing their training, they go through these platoons. And so for myself, I was lucky enough to be at the school for 3 years. And in my last year, I was employed as a company commander. So this person who's in charge of executing a training plan for all of these people. And I loved it. It was, a job that most would strive for, because again, you got, 80 instructors at the school that are officers, and not everyone got a shot to be a company commander. So I was lucky enough to get this shot. And I did it for 6 months, and I loved every moment of it. And I remember the commandant of the school brought me into her office, and she had said, listen, you're doing a wonderful job, Rob, but unfortunately you're fired. And I was devastated because I thought, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm showing up here, I'm doing training, like the actual physical training with the candidates, I'm teaching the classes, I'm kind of going above and beyond. I get to put my personal flair into connecting with 360 candidates, and here I am, standing in the commandant's office, and she's telling me that I'm fired. And she goes, but don't worry. She's like, that's the bad news. She's like, the good news is that I'm giving you another job. You're going to be a company commander, but over here, in this other position, this other lower tiered. And when I say lower tiered, it's everyone has this expectation of the hierarchy of jobs, right? And so at first I was kind of bummed out. I was like, oh, okay, I guess, if you think this is where I should go. Now, what the commandant of that school saw was, she saw what light I had in me, and she saw the need over in this other position. And so she started moving her players around. And when I look back at it, it was the best time. It was the best thing that ever happened in my whole career in the Canadian Armed Forces was being an instructor, not only at that school, but being able to have that opportunity that she had moved me into. Okay. So the company commander position I took there was I was in charge of all the people who had either failed basic training, or it was people who had medical injuries and medical limitations. And so it was people who joined the forces to do basic training and didn't quite get over the hurdle. And the morale was low, and we're getting into trouble. And there was a stigma because people, didn't want to associate with that. And those were the troublemakers. And so in her assessment, she said, I'm going to take you with what I see as a leader, and I want you to take this company over, and I want you to make a difference. And, maybe one small little thing to talk about is, before I go into the details of how much fun I had there, is we all have these expectations that, oh, I need to get this job so I can get this job and I can get this job. And it's all about this career advancement.
Yes.
But sometimes it's not about this or this or this or this. It's about aligning who you are and putting you in the best position, and even if it's a lateral move as opposed to a promotion upwards, sometimes this is where you're meant to be. You're just meant to be lateral, and you're going to glow, and you're going to be amazing at it. So, but a lot of people get hung up on, oh, but I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I'm not, compared to my peers, and that expectation is only setting you up for failure. Because now you're just pissed off and you're miserable and you're not happy. And luckily, that was maybe just a short-lived feeling when she told me that she's moving me to this company that was undesirable. Now I get there and I start taking over, and I start talking with the candidates. I start talking with the staff, and I start to get a feel. And
so, Rob, before you go there, I want to make sure I cover this part. So you're going from a high to a low feeling. How do you keep yourself motivated in that instant where you get this news and you're doing so well, you feel like you're almost like on cloud 9, and it feels like a demotion in a way? How do you keep yourself motivated again as a leader? How do you keep yourself motivated to give that other team your best?
I had to reframe everything, because as much as I didn't understand, I had to say that the commandant of the school saw something in me and thought that this was the best thing to do. And I had to really lean in on that and say, okay, I'm being handpicked. It's the story you tell yourself, I used to remember, when you look at a lot of instructors that would be posted to that school, you would have one school of people who were excited to be there, and those were the best instructors. And then you had the other half of people who show up and they went there dragging their feet. They did not want to be teaching at the recruit school, and those were the most miserable instructors, right? And I guess the way I would approach it, or I would realize, I would say, wait a minute, it's what story are you telling yourself? How are you framing it? And I think that's what I had to do. Was at that moment I had to stop and say, okay, I'm losing this high profile position, but I'm being selected and someone believes in me, and there's obviously work to be done, and then later it became clear. I was like, wait a minute, this high profile job I've got over here, I don't really have much flexibility to change the rules because it's a well-oiled machine. I can't just all of a sudden say we're going to do things different because it's this institution and things have to go a certain way.
That's right.
But all of a sudden now, when I was going into this other position, I had leeway. I had the ability to listen and see and change and connect and make a world of difference. And it ended up being the best job that I've ever had in my whole career. Right. So to the point that when I retired, and even though I had all these other high profile jobs, when I retired and I did my retirement message, that was the job that I reflected on and said this was the best time of my career, was when I was in this one position, because I was able to actually affect change. And I think there's maybe for yourself, I mean, there's a lot of people who they get hired into a leadership position, and it's like, oh, this is a leadership position. But then you get there and all of a sudden now you can't execute any leadership. It's all, I need you to just do what you're told, just follow with whatever's being told from up top. Well, you're handcuffing me. You're not allowing me to be a leader, and I think that's an issue today writ large. we need to take the handcuffs off. We need to teach people to be leaders, but then give them the leeway to actually execute and be leaders, and remove the expectation that you're just going to toe the party line.
Yeah.
Because that is very demotivating when you're in a leadership position and someone's like, well, yes, but stick to the program, stick to the script.
Yeah, that's right. And that's another way of being micromanaged from above, right? So
Right.
it's very important. And I think, another takeaway here is, and this is something I personally love as well, is, throw me in the deep end, throw me into a challenging spot, because you only have upwards to go. And the beauty is when you make even a minimal change and people can see that, that's very motivating and inspiring to say, hey, we're getting better and let's just keep going. And then you come up with like significant differences.
See, I've had peers, and I'm not criticizing. I can notice, for us, we had career progression, and if, you've only got so many years in your current rank, and then, then you go up to be merited and you compete for that promotion. And so a lot of people are like, well, I need to do this job, that job, this job, and then I'm going to get the promotion and I'm going to carry on with my career. And I remember when I was a lieutenant, and somewhere along the lines, I came to the point where I'm like, I will get my promotion, but I don't care what job you put me in. In fact, me, throw me wherever I could best be used. And I used to love that, because it was less try to groom me to, just be like everybody else. I wanted those challenges. Throw me into something where no one wants to go, because now I can go in and I can take the situation and I can make it better.
That's right.
And now, I can show you the delta. I can show you what I'm bringing to the table. I relished in that. I didn't want to just go into these high profile jobs where you can't really make any difference and you just show up and going through the motions. Right?
Absolutely. And I think that's where you also build a lot of your leadership skills too, is in those situations where you could make a lot of change and you could make a big impact. That's where you demonstrate your skills. It's very hard when you go into a team with, all superstars.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can only make very minute changes there at best, right?
Yeah.
And you have to continuously, there's a pressure to continuously keep that, well-oiled machine going.
Yeah.
But in the sense where there's a troubled team, troubled department, I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think there's lots of opportunities out there right now for leaders to start making those those differences within those teams. So I think that's a great story to share with people, Rob. I appreciate that.
Well, but I'll tell you, like I'll go a little further about the specifics of that other job though. So when I arrived, maybe there was only about 150 people, so as opposed to 360. And then I walked in to some of the training rooms and I started looking around, and you saw a lot of people walking with their heads down. People were just lounging about. There was lack of structure. People weren't fit. The morale was garbage. The instructors, it was, not to say that they didn't care, but it was just a different feel all around. And I remember I just started by talking to people and having side conversations to say, how's it going? What do you like about here? What don't you like? And the feedback was tremendous, because people were like, I joined the forces. I've put my life on hold, and I'm here. I didn't want to be here. And now that I'm here, I'm not proud of myself. I'm not happy. I don't know when I'm going to get back onto training. And there was all these little golden nuggets of the feedback that was coming in. And so I'd go back to my office and I'd start writing it down and be like, okay, so they're not happy about this. They're not happy about this. They're not happy about this. And I didn't make changes right away. It was just, let it kind of absorb and sink into my skin, into my mind. And within a couple of weeks, after talking to the candidates, talking to the instructors, talking to the commandant of the school, I started to get this vision. I was like, wait a minute, these guys have the potential. They're great. You know, they're waiting and they're on hold, but you know, let's start changing things up. And I remember going in and saying, okay, let's remove these vending machines, out of here. Let's get healthy choices in here. You know, this one space is dirty. All right, guys, let's take some pride and ownership. You know, we're going to empty out this room. Let's clean up all the walls. Let's bring everything in. And all of a sudden now they're doing it, but they're not doing it begrudgingly. They're doing it because they're kind of, they've got a task at hand, and there's the feedback of, hey, you guys are doing a wonderful job. You should be proud of yourselves. And then it was talk to the curriculum and start to say, okay, well, wait a minute. Yes, these guys are not on basic training, but let's start teaching them basic training courses while they're in holding. So now they're believing in themselves. They're actually doing more things. And I found within just about a month and a half, they were walking with their heads up a little higher, a little bit more prouder. There was a little bit more of a team effort. They didn't used to do morning inspections, but all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, let's do morning inspections. The staff wasn't inspected by standards, but if you were on basic training, they were instructed by standards. I was like, no. I'm like, let's treat them the same. I go, let's get standards to come in and make sure that these guys are held to account. Nice. And it was putting all the resources and the light, changing policies. I would talk to the school commandant and say, I need more money for this. I want to change these things in the training program. And I had all this leeway to bring change. Now, it took time. Eventually I left because I was given my job as the engineer of a ship. So I was posted out, but I did receive a beautiful email months later from the CEO of the school, the commandant. And she had said, I'm sitting on a graduation parade where we've had the highest percentage of people go from that one company, nice, that spot, that have returned back to training. And then not only are those numbers higher, but all the top candidates were from that training platoon. And I won't do justice to her message, but it was enough to say, you made a difference. And I was talking to other instructors who had gone to the school like years after I had, and they'd come back and they'd see me. They'd be like, hey, not only do we hear about the changes you had made, but we've maintained it. We kept it going. And people haven't forgot it. And again, maybe a slight part of it is a bit of an ego thing, but there's also a thing in my heart where I could actually feel like I made something better. I've impacted people's lives. I mean, when you go look at the stats in terms of how many people were getting into disciplinary trouble, we went from a whole, a couple dozen people getting charged and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, once we started changing the way that we saw them and the way that we trained them and believed in them, those numbers went down to next to nothing. Yep. It was changing and saying, okay, well, wait a minute. In the past, people would have to sit here and wait until the next platoon would open up for training, but they would have to be here for 12 weeks or 15 weeks. We're like, well, can we change the way so that maybe they don't have to wait until the beginning of a course? Maybe they can be able to join a course midway through. Oh, we've never done that before. Okay, we've never done that before, but maybe it's a good idea to do this because these are human beings whose lives are on hold, and maybe we have to change our ways.
That's right.
It was asking those questions. It was breaking those barriers. And in the end, all of the little changes that we had executed made a world of a difference. And that's leadership. That is making something better and impacting people's lives.
That's right. No, I think you did a fantastic job, and you nailed a lot of things along the way in terms of like leadership, actual leadership skills. And I think that's where leadership courage comes in. I think as a leader, you have to have that courage to go in and say, hey, I want to break something and I want to rebuild it.
Yeah.
I want to make a change. I want to take a risk. And if you're afraid to take risks as a leader,
yeah,
how are you ever going to see any rewards? How are you going to make any, significant or substantial changes? So I think that to me is leadership courage, right?
The other aspect though is that I remember there was a group of peers who supported me and said, oh, this is amazing what you're doing. There was a group of peers who were kind of neutral. They were indifferent. They didn't really care.
Yeah.
And then there was a group of peers who were like openly mocking, being like, what are you doing? Like you're wasting your time on these people, you know? And it was frowned upon and looked down upon. And I didn't give a shit what they thought.
Yep.
Because all of a sudden I was so focused on my task at hand, and I believed in myself. I believed in what I was doing. I really thought that we can make this place better. And I just tuned them all out. Because I was like, you are not adding to this, you know, and I'm not here doing my job to prove anything to anyone else.
That's right.
I'm just proving this to the people that we're training. I'm proving this to myself, you know, and you have to have that confidence to say, screw everyone else. This is what I need to do. Let me do my job.
And you have to, you know, you create that vision and you have to follow it. You have to, you know, be consistent with it and be committed to what you're doing. And I think, again, a lot of people do hear negative things from others. You know, I know I've heard it, the same story that you're telling me. People do experience with it, but again, it's that courage that you keep going with it no matter what people tell you, because it's your belief, right?
And I'll tell you too, I mean, I had my own obstacles. I had a ton of obstacles in this situation. One that merits talking about is that I had a staff, you know, senior staff member, you know, a guy with 25, 26 years of experience who was working, I don't normally say for me, but in this specific situation, he was a part of my team. You know, I was his boss, but he was resisting all the change that I was bringing, because he was guys to say, you know, that's not how we do it here. I've been a part of this team for so long, and he fought me on everything that I was trying to execute. And if you've got someone who's in your chain who's not resonating with you, it's a poison, because every time you turn your back, this person is belittling you and is, you know, fighting you, sabotaging, you know. And you know, that in itself, I had to, you know, talk to him and say, listen, I need you to get on board. You know, you don't have to agree with me, but you have to stop fighting me, you know, and we have to start working together. And, you know, that eventually he had to be removed, because I just said, listen, I cannot do my job. We cannot make this place better with this person who is unwilling to change, you know, and I don't wish this person any ill will, but this person cannot be here at this time. Right. So, and it was funny at the school, not many instructors wanted to be a part of this company.
Yeah.
The time I left, it become the place that every instructor wanted to go to. The best instructors wanted to come and actually make a difference. And it was beautiful to see. Yeah. But you know, and I had to go out there and I had to kind of be a little ruthless, you know, and I had to go to the school commandant and say, listen, you know, maybe I'm not going to be popular for removing this person, but this has to happen. And the commandant was behind me every time. I wasn't going in, you know, shooting from the hip, saying, I want to make changes to make change. I had always gone in and said, I want to make this change for this reason. And this is what I hope to gain from it. And, you know, if we don't do it, this is what's the fallout's going to be. And I kept on saying, I just want to make the training environment the same standard for everywhere else. I want the candidates to believe in themselves, and I want the trainers, the instructors. I want this to be a place where everyone wants to be a part of, and remove the you know, the stigma that's associated with it. And because I had that support from the top, a boss who handpicked me to go there. I mean, I had said to her on a number of times, I'm asking for your support. You picked me to do this job. Now that I'm here, embrace me, support me, give me what I need. And she did.
Nice.
And as a result of it, it was beautiful.
Yeah, and you need those people on top of you. And I always tell people, you know, when you're looking for a job, look for who you're going to be reporting to, because that person's either going to empower you to change your career and develop you and help you grow, or they're going to sabotage and destroy your career. So, you know, there's two easy things to look at. But I think that's great the way you handle the situation. And you know, you're always, not always, you do sometimes get those bad apples and they can poison the environment. And I think, you know, you do need to have a strategy around that. And, you know, either, you know, you give them those opportunities, you performance manage them, do whatever you need to do. Like you said, we don't have to be best friends, but you just need to be on the same page as me. And if you don't, there's got to be a point where, as a leader, again, you got to make tough decisions. And if you don't have that backbone to make those decisions, everyone else on your team is going to suffocate from it. Yeah. So I think it was a great choice, and you had to do what you had to do. So that brings me to a point which kind of relates to your story there. Now, you know, you're part of a team now, and the people you're looking after, you set these goals, and now you have people with self-limiting beliefs in achieving those goals, where, you know, you've got this high vision, they can't even see themselves get there. What's your strategy, and how do you deal with people with those self-limiting beliefs?
It's funny, you see that at all different ranks. You know, that doesn't really matter. Just, you know, someone will say, I'm a very good technician, but I'm horrible at writing reports.
Yes.
And it's, you know, I don't want the promotion. I don't want the promotion because I can't do this. And like, well, it really starts with that communication to say, okay, well, what aren't you good at? And coming up with a little plan in terms of like, okay, well, you're not good at writing. Okay, well, we have to start somewhere. So let's have at this. Let's go through a writing exercise. Let's see where you're at, and then you're working with them. But it means a lot when you have a boss who believes in you, who is saying, I can see that you have this, that you're capable. You know, you have to just keep at it with them. You know, they might not see it, but you continually to push them and put them in situations where it'd be like, well, I just need you to write this small little report. Hey, you did a great job. You did a really good job on that report. These are a couple of things that I would change it, you know, and change, you know, not changing their words, but, you know, maybe can you expand on this? But you work with them. It's that engagement. It's not saying just become a better writer and then turn your back and walk away. It's in the day-to-day working with different people, giving them opportunities to work on it, but then also giving them that great feedback to say, here's how, you know, here's clear things that you can do better next time.
That's right. No, and I think that's a great point. And I'm always a believer of you challenge them, you put them in challenging situations, but you mentor and coach them so they can see that, you know, they can complete those tasks by themselves now, and it helps build like a motivation and confidence. So that's a great point.
I think I'd mentioned to you on one of the earlier podcasts about like my fear of public speaking, and because that was my fear, that was also my self-limiting, you know, feedback that I was giving to myself. Is like, you can't do this. You can't do this. That's not who you are. You know, so everything can be overcome. You know, it's just realizing, what are your fears? Why does somebody not want to go into management? Why does someone not want to, become better at writing or learn a second language or whatever it is? But the thing is that it's that Henry Ford quote we were talking about earlier. You know, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
That's right.
That whatever it is that you're telling yourself, well, that's what the outcome is going to be. You told yourself that.
Yeah.
You know, and you're never going to surprise yourself, because you are going to, you know, if you think that you can't quit smoking, then you will never be able to quit smoking, because you have said to yourself that you just can't do it.
Right.
But it helps when you've got a boss or a leader, a supervisor, someone who's outside of you, who believes in you. It starts with them kind of planting that seed and saying, you're capable. I believe in you. I can see you doing great things. And hopefully that seed can kind of break down that wall of self-disbelief.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, I'm never going to make someone else better. I can just try to influence. This person has to have those walls crumble for themselves, and they have to believe in themselves before they can make any positive change in addressing those fears and overcoming their negative thoughts.
That's right. And that goes exactly to, the self-belief system that you create in your mind. And you got to remember that your subconscious is doing 95% of the work while your conscious is only doing 5%. So once you build that in your subconscious that you can't, you won't, right?
Yeah.
And what you're saying about people encouraging you and, planting that seed, it slowly starts to develop in your subconscious mind. And if you are able to become aware of it, you can change that.
Yeah. Well, I think I saw one of your your Twitter feed has got a million wonderful, positive, tweets that kind of get pushed out there, and I love them all. I all in. One thing that I'd seen, and I think it's really important to kind of repeat it here, is that it's very important to who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with positive people who want to see you succeed, people who are like-minded or people that you aspire to become, then you will grow in that environment. But if you surround yourself with people who have no ambition, people who are negative about everything, you can't do that. Everything's hopeless and impossible. If that's the messaging that you are immersed in all the time, you're never going to grow. You're never going to change, No. And you don't wish anyone. It's not like you wish ill will on anybody, but you have to say, what's the life I want to live, and how am I going? Sometimes it's going to say, well, I'm going to spend less time with this person over here instead of spending every day. Maybe it's going to be just once every 2 weeks. Go meet new people. Go meet positive people. Go meet people that can teach you something. How you spend your time is going to be a reflection on who you become.
That's right.
And I think once you understand that, you can see it, then you can do something about it. And once you start to put that into practice, you're going to start to see changes in your everyday life in terms of your self-limiting beliefs. All of a sudden aren't as self-limiting anymore. You're gonna be like, wait a minute, I actually think that I can go skydiving or bungee jumping. I can go learn a second language. Whatever your fears are, you're gonna be a little bit more open to it than when you're around a whole bunch of people who don't want to improve, and all they want to do is bitch and complain about how everything sucks and everything's horrible, and nothing's great. You have to change that.
I'm sure we all have those kind of friends, and it's interesting you bring that up, and this has been kind of my message, that leadership doesn't just pertain to an office space. It's not just for organizations. It plays out in every aspect of your life, and with respect to that, you have two choices. You can start leading your life, leading yourself, and leading where you want to go. Or you can be a follower to those around you. And if, you've got people that just want to sit on a couch, play video games, smoke pot, drink, and do fuck all with their life, you can follow that path and see where it takes you.
Yeah.
But if you've got ambitions and goals and you're driven, those are the people that are going to pull you down.
Yeah.
And that's when you have to make a decision. Again, this is where leadership comes in. Make tough decisions, cut them loose, move on with your life. And, you have to, if you really want to achieve your goals, you've got to make those changes. Yeah. You've got to get uncomfortable. You got to be alone. You got to do shit by yourself. If you don't do that, you'll never achieve those goals.
I believe that anybody can accomplish anything they set their mind to. It's just, but it starts with having to believe that. A lot of people don't believe it. A lot of people say, that's just bullshit. That's just some, quote out of a book. But when give me any task and let me focus on it for about a week, and let me tell myself that this is important and I'm capable and I'm the right person. And no matter what that task is that you're going to give me, if I'm going to allocate and say, I'm going to make this happen, I guarantee you it doesn't matter if it's a week, a month, a year, or 10 years, or 20 years, but eventually I will fucking do it.
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter. I mean, a couple of years ago, I was decent with money management and understanding finances and taxes, but I wasn't at my best. I was in the middle. And then so I went and got books, and I started diving in and focusing, and I read Canadian Tax Principles, the 2 volumes, and then at the end of it, I had 13 pages of questions for my accountant, and I would say that after 6 months of focusing on that area where I might have not been the best, I made myself better, But there'd be a lot of people on the side saying, "What are you doing? Why are you reading those textbooks? That's boring. That's horrible, blah, blah, blah." Well, I want to be better with money. I want to be more efficient with my money. And I'm not, like I said earlier, you have to tune out the naysayers. You have to tune out all those people who are saying, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" I'm doing it because it's important to me.
That's right.
I believe in this, and I'm going to do it. And at the end, I get to reap the rewards of where I put my focus and my attention.
Absolutely. And like I said, if you don't do that, then, you can't complain about it and whine and bitch about it later that, I didn't get anywhere in life. I didn't do anything in life, because you held yourself back. You allowed that to happen to yourself. And I think, you don't need to necessarily go and get a master's, go to a college, do X. Just start reading on your own. Teach stuff to yourself. Ask questions. There's a lot of subject matter experts out, and I think in today's society with social media, it's so powerful that you can reach out to a lot of different people and ask those questions, and they can teach you stuff.
Yeah.
So it's free. It's all out there.
So I can't remember if I mentioned this earlier or not on one of the podcasts, but like last October, the 2nd of October, I was bungee jumping with a dear friend of mine, and I was 220 pounds. And I remember I'd come back and said, "Listen, I want to make changes in my life. I do not want to be 220, and I'm going to stop eating fast food. I'm going to start training. I'm going to do cold swimming, go swimming in my local lake." And I had this whole list of things that I want to do, and I believed in it. I had this vision. I said, I'm like, I want to feel great. I want to feel wonderful. And then so every day I just kept on showing up. Every day it was another day of not eating fast food. It was another day of going swimming in the lake. It was another day of training. And my training wasn't going to the gym. It was just throwing, 30 pounds in a backpack and going and walk, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers. It was running. Start with running half a kilometer, then 1 kilometer, then 3 kilometers, then up to 5, and pushing yourself. And if it was raining outside or it was cold, it was snowing, it didn't matter. And that's something I remember from the book Can't Hurt Me, is the author, David Goggins. He just said, he goes, "Doesn't matter what the environment is. Doesn't matter if it's raining sideways, is get your ass out there."
Yes.
And on those days when it's pouring rain, I would say to myself, how bad do I want this? Do I want to be fit? Yes or no? Oh, yes, I want to be fit. Okay, well, get your ass out there and do the work. And the span of 1 year, I dropped 50 pounds.
Nice.
So I, to the point, like wearing extra large shirts, and now I'm wearing medium and small shirts, and it's like, but it's based on the hundreds of kilometers of training, the hundreds of hours of getting out there and doing the work. And it wasn't listening to anybody else saying you can or cannot do it. And someone says, "Oh, you don't, how do you get the time?" Well, it's easy. I had removed a lot of social media out of my life. So I was freeing up an hour of scrolling. If it was Facebook from a couple of years ago or Instagram recently. I mean, there's a lot of addictive features that keep you wanting to keep scrolling. And the next thing you know, you're just giving your time away. And of course, most people can't find the time because they give it away unconsciously.
No discipline.
And so for myself, I said, okay, well, I'm going to free up this time. And all of a sudden now I'm going to make this the priority. The priority was I want to train.
Yep.
And I did it. And and it really goes to show is that, anybody can accomplish anything if they want it bad enough and if they believe in themselves.
That's right.
Most people don't even get to that point of even knowing what they want to do. And then even if they say, "Oh, I want to lose the weight," it's an upward battle because they don't want to put in the work. They want the result, but they don't want to do the journey. And the thing is, it's actually the journey. It's those step by step, and it's showing up every single day that makes a world of difference.
Yep, exactly. But if you ask them about a series on Netflix, I bet you they know the whole series, and they can rhyme off a lot of that stuff. And that's going back to exactly what you said, is cut off that crap, that excessive crap that you need. Oh, I don't have time, but you do have time to sit there, watch TV, like you said, scroll. And if you absolutely can't find time, wake up earlier. Wake up that 1 or 2 hours earlier. Again, you get that 1-2 hours to do whatever you want to do, and go to bed earlier. You don't have to stay up till 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, doing whatever it is that you're doing. Just prioritize, your life, health, your family, what you're doing, but take care of yourself. I think that's the most important. And the mind and body connection is super important. You can't have one without the other. And I'm sorry, you can argue with me all you want, but you can't be healthy and have a shitty mind. Because even if you say, I go to the gym to de-stress, you come back home to that element, you're still fucked up in the head. It doesn't change anything.
Right.
You just put a Band-Aid for 1 hour. That's all you did.
The two work hand in hand. I'm on the same page with you. And then also too, like we were just saying, like that whole, if you can't find time, well, where are you spending your time? You know what, pull a little piece of paper and start writing down and saying, wait a minute, I spend an hour socializing on, with this person or that person. And you have to analyze and weigh everything and say, is this the best use of my time?
Yep.
And I guarantee you, when you do that self-assessment, you're going to quickly find out that there's things you can cut out. There's things you can say, well, this is great, but I'd rather spend my time doing this.
That's right.
This is going to give me a better return on my investment, a better return on my time.
Yep. And it all goes back, Rob, in terms of, how driven you are, what your goals are, what do you want to do with your life. And if, you want to sit there and do nothing, then just don't complain. Go and do that. But if you really want to make changes, then do something about it. And it starts off by those lists, taking down notes, journaling what you're doing, what you should stop. Exactly like what you said. Just there's ways to finding time and doing what you love to do. So I think those are great points that you brought up.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I don't want to start the next part of what I wanted to talk about. I will save that for our fifth episode of this series. I want to talk about leadership and parenting. And I want to do a deep dive into the parenting aspect of it. I know you've got kids, and you've experienced various stages of your life with respect to parenting. So I want to kind of touch base on that and kind of pick your brain a little bit and ask you some questions. But I don't want to get into that conversation right now, so we'll save that for our next podcast. Again, I greatly appreciate your time, Rob. Thank you for joining us today. And for all those watching, like I said, if you've got any questions or comments, please provide your comments and feedback on the links below, and we'll try to get back to you and try to answer those questions. So until next time, everyone, have yourself a great one, and we'll see you again. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Take care.